talking about Tolkien. The Hobbit, Chapter 3, A Short Rest. Roll your hit die, Ben.
Roll my hit die?
Yeah, you're taking a short rest. You gotta get your health back.
Oh, I thought you meant roll to hit. I was like, whew, okay. Whew,
No. You just got done stealing stuff from some trolls. You gotta go to Rivendell. Take a short rest, get your hit die, and then go Rivendell. Let's do it.
So this is the chapter that introduces probably more lore than I ever remembered on my first read. I was reading this again for this podcast, and I was like, wait a minute. I wound up having to go and reread like 3 chapters of the Silmarillion. He name drops so much stuff in this one.
Yeah, he does. I, on the other hand, it was like 10 pages maybe. It was a brisk start to finish.
So, okay, let's hear your take. What did you get out of this?
Well, they're getting close to those mountains, Ben. He says the mountains marched very near. Great line. And we know that's like the first major obstacle. Like, if you thought those trolls were a problem, whew, wait till you have to go through those goddamn mountains. You could get yourself apparently turned around in them like Zelda the Lost Woods, except this predates that, Ben. That's the first thing. And Gandalf is like, we're going to secret elf town, Rivendell. They have to like go down a secret slope, Ben. I did not recall that it was secret, by the way. I did not realize that at all.
I think it's somewhat hidden. I don't think anybody can just walk into Rivendell.
One does not simply walk into Rivendell.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, you walked right into that.
I think Elrond is very much the master of his domain. He has basically total control of the area around Rivendell. And so...
Yeah, for now. He's not going to be so high and mighty later on, Ben.
To get in without his permission, you would need an army.
So, luckily, the dwarves and Gandalf and Bilbo, they have permission. So they manage to get down there. They go down a slope and they go down into Rivendell. Rivendell, by the way, from Ready Player One. Big fan. Did you know, Ben? Dwarves and elves, they don't get along.
I did know that.
Yeah.
Little racial tension.
Yeah.
Little incident going back to, let's be real, the elves kind of screwing over the dwarves with Nauglamir.
What happened? I know you mentioned this to me, but I think you did this in
There was
chat.
a necklace. The elf guy didn't want to pay. Turned into a whole big thing.
Wow. Was there a war involved, or?
There was some murder. Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of a dick move.
The elves in the first age were confused. They were going through some stuff.
Yeah, that's let them off the hook for their crimes, Ben. Look, I'm just saying, when you're immortal, you gotta live with that shit, Ben. You gotta live with that shit forever.
Nate, you're tapping into some deep shit here.
Oh my god.
That's why they have to go to the West. When you're immortal, all that stuff adds up on you. Living in this world becomes a painful reminder of every trauma you've ever experienced. That's why they go west to the Holy Land.
Wow. Okay, I was just gonna say, like, as a mere human, I could be like, nah, that was my dad who did that, bro. I don't owe taxes today.
I don't what?
Yeah, no, he owes you some money.
That was a very specific example.
So yeah, they don't get along, Ben. Apparently they don't get along because elves are, or were. No, I'm going to say are. You're immortal. You're dicks. So now, apparently in the original D&D, aka The Hobbit, a short rest is 14 days. So that's a long time.
You know, as bad as the hatred between elf and dwarf is, The hospitality of Rivendell, once extended, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
the dwarves hang out there, and even the dwarves are like, this isn't so bad. And every day they're like, one more day. One more day. How bad could it be? Yeah, like, we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. Dragon's not going anywhere.
Yeah. He's not. He's been there for a while.
And if he does, hey, all the better. Our mountain.
Yeah.
Finders keepers.
Yeah, when we get there.
Elrond, I think I'm crashing on your couch for another week.
Now, Elrond, what did you think of... Oh my god, I can't... It's late, so it's not my fault that I'm blanking on the actor's name, despite the fact that he's
Hugo Weaving.
There you go. I knew it started with a Hugh, right? Alright. What do you think of him as Elrond?
Not pretty enough.
Yeah, I was going to say, he always looks like he's angry and wanting to fight you, and that's not the vibe I ever get from Elrond in the books.
I don't want to go too hard on Peter Jackson for this one, but like, that's all the elves in the movie. All the elves are angry all the time.
Yeah, they don't seem like they're dancing and singing their fun little games like they do in this book, Ben.
No, the elves in The Hobbit are practically on LSD. They are just going nuts in the middle of the woods. They're just singing songs. And yeah, they don't like the dwarves, so they tease them. They're like, oh, look at your beard, man. Why is it so big?
Because I'm a man.
And every elf knows Bilbo's name. Now, I will say, the vibe I get from the elves in this chapter of The Hobbit is very much the vibe I would get from elves in Norse mythology.
Yeah.
They're kind of enigmatic. They're aloof, and they seem to just blend right into nature. They seem very like sprightly.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going to like it when we end up deforesting that land and putting a shopping mall
Which
there.
is why they need to go into the West. The gods keep telling them about this. They're like, you're not going to like it there. You're going to want to leave. You're not going to like how this goes. Most of them leave. Aragorn becomes king, and they're like, oh, there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah. Age of man, baby. Man! So, Elrond is super old. I don't know how old, but I made note of that, Ben.
Elrond, oh boy. He goes back to the first age for sure. I don't know his exact age in years. I could tell you a lot about Elrond. I don't know when you want to... That's going to be the bulk of this episode.
All right, well, let me just go through what Elrond does, and then you can start talking about him. Because that's pretty much the rest of the chapter. He looks at those blades from the trolls. Gondolin blades?
Yes.
There's Orcrist the Goblin Cleaver. That's the one that Thorin has.
One of the few times the word orc is going to be used in this book to describe a goblin.
Yeah, are they the same thing?
They are the same thing, and I will talk about that after you
Okay,
finish.
because I was going to say, I went into this as a kid after playing Heroes of Might and Magic 2, Don't At Me, and they were different things. So I was picturing different things when Orc and Goblin were mentioned. So, anyway, Gandalf has Glamdring Bowhammer, which was worn by some ancient king. He's dead now.
Some ancient... Oh, God, you just hurt me.
Yeah. Then he talks about the forgotten treasures in the mines of Moria and the Goblin War. And he looks at the map. And the map has moon letters, Ben. They're written so you can only reveal it in the moonlight. That's why they're moon letters. And that map shows that... and first of all, Thorin gives him the map without, like, pouting and being distrustful and being a little crybaby.
Because it was his choice. You didn't make me.
Yeah.
I choose to let you see the map. Also, can I please have more of that lembas bread? Thank you.
And so that door can only be opened on Durin's Day. It also says the dimensions. And Durin's Day is the last day of autumn into the first day of winter. And we used to be able to calculate that, Ben, but that's been lost to time. We're just going to have to, like, guess. And so that's their plan now. They're gonna go through the mountains. They're gonna go to Smaug, and they're gonna go into that secret door on precisely Durin's Day. And we'll get right on that in about 2 weeks. I think I'm gonna hang out here for just a little longer. And I got a little crick in my neck, so if you could send some of your elf masseuses down, that'd be really awesome. Thanks, buddy.
So you're ready to get into the deep lore with Ben?
Yeah, let's go into the deep lore.
Okay. So, inspirations. I mentioned Norse mythology. Obviously, elves are a huge part of Norse mythology. I don't usually go into the prose Edda, but we're going to for this one because I think most elf stuff in popular media is coming directly from the prose Edda by Snorri Sturluson, who has the best name ever.
Yeah, Snorri Sturluson.
Snorri Sturluson was writing in post-Christianized Iceland, and he was writing about the myths and legends of his homeland in a way that was very careful not to offend the church. He's considered an authoritative source, though not as authoritative as the Prose Edda, because he's not writing at the time these myths were actually, alive. He's writing in a time long after that, but closer than we are, so worth mentioning. So he describes in Gylfaginning the dark elves and the light elves and their kingdoms. And Tolkien's elves are pretty close to the light elves, which live in Alfheim.
And the dark elves are the bad ones that are in Thor 2.
Svartalfheim.
Fartalfheim. Okay.
I knew you were going to do that.
Yeah,
Yep.
you had to have known, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're always angry, because the smell of that place just... you never get used to it, Ben.
Yes. But the light elves hang out with the gods. They're powerful. They're beautiful. They look a lot like Tolkien's elves.
Okay.
So, this chapter has so many references to the broader legendarium, the Silmarillion, the history of Middle-earth, all the stuff that was rattling around in Tolkien's head that he had not yet published. And in one of his letters, I believe it is letter 257 in the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien, he is talking about how The Lord of the Rings came to be published, and how we already mentioned, The Hobbit was something of a quirk of fate. The right people saw it at the right time, and it got published. He then offered them the Silmarillion material, and they politely declined, saying, "Wow, that's a lot." They were like, "You got anything?"
To read all this?
Well, and it's not just that. It's that the Silmarillion stuff is written like a saga, like a Norse saga. And it uses a lot of like high language, antiquated language, thee, thou, thy, all that stuff.
Fee, fi, fo, fum.
And they were just like, I don't think people who liked The Hobbit are gonna like this. I don't think they're gonna go for that necessarily. And they wanted a sequel. He wanted, in his words, heroic legends and high romance. And the compromise they reached was The Lord of the Rings.
Wow.
And
wow. Okay, I did not realize that The Lord of the Rings was the his second choice.
yes, he thought it was mandatory that you read the Silmarillion material before you could understand Lord of the Rings.
Oh my god.
And there was another compromise, and that's why there is a giant appendix at the end of Return of the King to explain all the gaps to you.
And that's where they drew all their material for the Rings of Power.
Haven't watched it, not going to watch it. I've got to wait till it's been out for 10 years, and I'm going to start my career as a YouTube reaction channel. Lifelong Lord of the Rings fan. watches The Rings of Power, and I'm going to go on there and I'm going to be like, oh, wow, it's actually not terrible. I can't believe this corporate shill Amazon product is so widely panned as not being authentic to Tolkien, anti-establishment, anti-industrial. I don't like The Rings of Power. I don't like the concept. I don't like who makes it.
Where's my Tom Bombadil show?
Where's Tom Bombadil SVU? Going through the Shire every week, there's like he's trying to nail Merry and Pippin to the wall for their many crimes against Farmer Maggot.
Farmer Maggot.
That's what I want. But there's actually an interesting thing where in this letter he talks about how does he make a sequel to The Hobbit that is more in line with what he wants to do. And I'm going to read a rather long passage because I think it's interesting.
Okay.
The magic ring was the one obvious thing in The Hobbit that could be connected with my mythology. To be the burden of a large story, it had to be of supreme importance. I then linked it with the originally quite casual reference to the necromancer, whose function was hardly more than to provide a reason for Gandalf going away and leaving Bilbo and the dwarves to fend for themselves, which was necessary for the tale. From The Hobbit are also derived the matter of the dwarves, Durin, their prime ancestor, and Moria, and Elrond. The passage in Chapter 3 relating him to the half-elven mythology was a fortunate accident, due to the difficulty of constantly inventing good names for new characters. I gave him the name Elrond casually, but as this came from my mythology, the tale of Elros and Elrond, which I will get into, I made him half-elven.
Yeah, but it's super easy to come up with names. Gabriel Vincent, done.
You just take two first names, you smash them together. That's him. Troll named William. I don't see a
wait,
problem.
Elrond is half-elf?
Elrond is like super duper half-elf.
What the fuck? What?
Okay.
Since when?
Yeah. Since always. Since the first age, my friend. Since the beginning.
Oh my god. How do you even become a half-elf?
Okay.
When a man...
Family tree time.
Okay.
Family tree time.
Okay.
So in this
I thought this
chapter,
family tree was going to be a dwarven one for some reason, but
no.
All right, let's do it.
So in the chapter, they mention that Elrond is descended from both elven importance and great heroes of old. So he is... Oh boy, let me think about this. There's two main human-elf pairings in the Silmarillion. There's Beren and Luthien, which unfortunately we had to talk about in our Ready Player 2 conversation.
Yeah, where he paid homage to that story by... what he did was he walked over, he unzipped his pants, he crouched over it, and he just went, oh, and he just took a big steaming dump all over that story.
Beren and Luthien have a child named Dior. I'm not 100% confident in my pronunciations. Don't at me.
That sounds about right. I believe it's pronounced door, but, I won't at you.
Dior would go on to have a child, Elwing. And there was another human-elf pairing, Idril and Tuor. They would go on to have a child, Ariendel. And from the pairing of two half-elves, Ariendel and Elwing, we get Elrond and his brother, Elros. Backing up a little bit more. So Tolkien's been working on this mythology for a long time, and he has detailed ideas of what elves and humans are supposed to be. And he is also very Catholic, and his own spiritual beliefs play a big part in how he conceived of the fate of the souls of his imaginary beings. And the fate of elves and men is different. So they're not just different species, they're also like very different spiritual beings.
Yeah, we're cooler. We made big old cities and shit. I don't see an elf city because they keep hiding it from me.
Well, Gondolin was such an elf city, and it was hidden, and it was awesome.
Yeah, where are they now, Ben?
Well, we'll talk about that. So, thing you gotta know. Elves, they're immortal. You didn't know that when we started this. They don't just live a really long time. They're immortal. Mandatory. They live forever. If an elf dies, they do not leave this world. Their spirits go to a kind of between place called the Halls of Mandos until they either are bodily reincarnated, again in Middle-earth, or, well, in the lands to the west, in Arda. We'll look up Arda. I'll get to that one day.
Okay.
But they're either there till they come back or the world ends.
Oh, okay.
They can't die. They can't not exist. When an elf is born, they're there forever until the world ends. There is a kind of rapture revelations style end of the world where the world is like broken and remade after a battle between good and evil. But men have a different fate. Men get what is called the gift of men. They are allowed to die.
Yeah, thanks, Dad.
Well, when they die, they go to the Halls of Mandos briefly, and then they're allowed to move on to the next thing. And, in this world, for a fact, there is a next thing. Spirits are real. There is a soul.
That sounds pretty awesome. I wish that, I had that kind of concrete evidence, but okay. No, that's cool. Great.
Careful what you wish for. But it is said that in time, even the Valar, who are the gods of Middle-earth, will come to envy the gift of men. Basically, once enough time goes by, you're gonna wish you could turn off. Even if you ignore that there's no soul. Like, even, let's say you don't know for a fact your soul will go on to the next thing. The world is imperfect, and eventually, that's gonna get to you. Imagine living through an eternity of 2020s.
Yay.
Yeah. Because, it's not all good. You don't remember the good stuff the most strongly. But it is unfortunate that men have forgotten that it is indeed a gift to die and rally so hard against it.
Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, gift to die, great. Can you extend my lifespan just a little more, though?
Maybe.
Not to be ungrateful, but, give me another 50 years or so. Just 50.
That's negotiable.
Okay.
The Númenóreans were rewarded for their service to the gods with triple the normal human lifespan.
Okay.
Though by the time of Aragorn, it's down to about double.
Wow. Yeah, that's because they stopped with all the, they lost their knowledge of antibiotics and just all went downhill.
Well, they did some stuff, but that's too much for this episode. So, why is that all important?
Why is that all important?
Elrond and Elros. Okay. So at the end of the Second Age, you gotta make a choice. Two souls, two very different roads. But now we've got all these half-elves wandering around.
Hey, it's not decreed. My fault elves are hot, okay? Not my fault.
It is decreed by the chief deity of Middle-earth, who is in touch with the one true God. There is a one true God. Not getting into it this episode. And he says, okay, you're a half-elf. You can't have both. You got to pick one or the other, but you get to pick. As long as you don't wait too long to make the choice, we'll let you pick. You can pick the fate of the elves, or you can pick the fate of men. Elrond chooses the fate of the elves.
Yeah, and then he spends the entire movie trying to tell his daughter to do the same.
Yes. Fun fact, Elrond, do you know who his wife is?
Galadriel?
Galadriel's daughter.
Oh.
Galadriel is his mother-in-law.
That's weird.
That is weird. But you know what's even weirder? Elros chose the fate of men.
Oh my god.
And his descendants would go on to become the Númenóreans.
What? Huh.
including after many, many generations, like we're talking like 20 to 40 generations here, Aragorn.
Oh my god. So,
That is his brother's descendant marrying his daughter.
nice.
Genetically, it's not a problem. I mean, it's been forever, but it's weird. It's still
It's
weird.
a little weird.
But it also kind of explains why Elrond is so nice to Aragorn.
Oh, I thought you were about to say why Elrond doesn't want his daughter to be involved in that. I getcha.
This is Lord of the Rings stuff, but yeah, Aragorn was raised at Rivendell, so that's kind of why. Next, let's talk about the weapons.
All right.
Glamdring, Orcrist, and the dagger didn't have a name, but Sting! Because Bilbo gave it a name because it deserved to be included.
Yeah. It's a nice dagger, guys.
I am not going to get in to the whole fall of Gondolin, but Gondolin is a big deal.
Oh.
Gondolin was the greatest elven city of the First Age.
Oh my god. Now you're saying of the First Age, we're in the Third Age. I can only guess at what happened to them.
Elrond's great grandfather was the king of Gondolin.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so when he says these swords are a big deal, like, they're a big deal. The fact that it was held, the Gandalf sword, Glamdring, was held by the king of Gondolin in battle, that's big. Like, this is a very important sword. Gondolin was completely destroyed by the full force of Morgoth's army.
Wow.
Morgoth makes Sauron look like a babysitter. The full force of Morgoth's army, just to give you an idea, includes God knows how many orcs, legions of Balrogs, multiple dragons.
Hey,
So,
we managed to take care of one dragon and one Balrog in these 4 books. How hard could
at
it
the
be?
cost of like many of our most important characters, to give you an idea of how far, like how glorious the golden age of the elves was. This was a battle that he did not win easily, though he did win decisively. So these swords were forged to fight with Balrogs and dragons and orcs,
Damn.
of course. So
Does
these
Gandalf
are like
keep this sword?
Gandalf keeps this sword for the entirety of Lord of the Rings.
Does he use it to fight the Balrog then?
He does.
Damn. Is that what led him to victory partially?
Partially. I'd say it certainly wouldn't have hurt. But Gandalf himself is a spiritual being. We can talk about that more in Lord of the Rings. But the idea that Gandalf barely defeated one Balrog, and Gandalf is like the most powerful guy they have, and this elven kingdom had to fight legions of them.
Did they get him? Did they take a lot down with them?
There's one that they got pretty famously, but that guy died doing it.
Huh. Well, I was kind of hoping you'd take more with you.
They're pretty tough. It was touch and go there for a while, whether or not the world would make it. Like it is today. We can all relate to that.
Yeah, I wish our problems could be handled with sword play. That'd be nice.
I have one last note for you.
Okay.
Orcs and goblins.
Yeah. So the goblin is the tier 1 unit of the barbarian, and the orc is the tier 2 unit. Orcs can also be upgraded into orc chieftains and Heroes of Might Magic 2. Goblins can't. I think goblins are in 3 and might be able to be upgraded, but goblins are melee units and orcs are ranged units. Also, barbarians also have wolves, which that'll be important later. I don't know if orcs hang out with ogres or not, but you know, trolls are also a barbarian unit. Really, they also need cyclopses in Lord of the Rings. So, anyway, yeah, tell me about your version of goblin and orcs.
Okay. So first, let's talk about the word orc. This is going to be important for the next chapter, but
Norse?
there's so little story in this. No, Actually, it is not Norse.
Oh my god.
It is related. It is Old English or Anglo-Saxon. I don't know
That's
which turned
basically
into
old.
which.
That's basically Old English. Yeah.
So this the word I believe he pulled from Beowulf. I shall attempt to read Old English to you.
Okay.
Thanen und tidras eal onwoken eotanas und ilfe und orkneas. Thence all evil broods were born, ogres and elves and evil spirits. Orkneas is where he got it. Orkneas being the plural of, I assume, orc. He borrowed that word and applied it to the bad guys of the enemy army.
Okay.
Goblin is a roughly equivalent. Like D&D and RPGs have taken every word in an old myth or an old legend and made it into a specific kind of creature. But originally, like goblin, troll, demon, ghost, wraith, there's a lot of these words that can apply to a broad variety of supernatural phenomenon. And I think goblin is one of those. I don't think he had obviously been thinking about orc because he came up with Orcrist, the sword. And when I went into the Hobbit, I actually forgot the name of the sword. And I was prepared to say he had not yet decided on the name orc, but I think he had. But maybe he wasn't ready to commit for a children's book to an entirely new creature. He wanted to use a word they'd heard before.
I see.
So he went with goblin.
Goblin is much more common then than an orc?
Yes. I think children in the 40s would have heard the word goblin.
Well, this wasn't
and
in
they
the
would have
40s,
known it
was
as...
it?
Was it?
I thought Hobbit came out earlier. 37. All right, close enough. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think you would have thought of goblin as something like a gremlin or something like that. It's just a mischievous creature that causes nothing but problems, and it's malicious. But maybe it's smaller than you or inferior to humans. Like, you can imagine a warrior beating a goblin, but if the goblins catch you unawares in the forest, you could be in trouble. I think that's what it's meant to convey.
Ah.
So yeah, the more you know.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions about Elrond, the last homely home, Rivendell, dancing elves, magic swords that glow blue,
moon letters? Does it? I don't think we know that yet, right? Tight. We don't know about it glows when they're near yet, right?
Does he describe that or not?
I don't think he did because I didn't write it down, and I would have written that down. I thought that's something they find out when they're in the Misty Mountains.
Oh boy, I've been so deep in. I have no memory of when I first heard that it glows. Now, we could talk about Durin's folk, but I think we'll talk about that later. I think we've gone... I don't want to force all the lore on people all at once.
All right. I'm going to go lay down. For a short rest.
Hey, yeah, you did it. End of episode. Eotanas und Ilfe und Orkneas.